So for the last project that you're going to be doing, it's going to be a drawing, and the theme of it is going to be called Home. I'm putting this on to Google Classroom a little bit early just because there's 7 seniors in the 2D classes, so they have a little bit less time to do things. They have to finish up a little bit earlier than the rest of you. So the seniors have to get right on this, so that's why I'm not putting it up on a Monday or Tuesday morning, but rather about half a week earlier. So when you open up Google Classroom, you're going to have this paper, which is going to go over the directions, and then there'll be some other drawings in here as well to kind of give you an idea or some examples of professional illustrations that have to do with different types of homes. So let's start with the beginning. So some of the art teachers are having their kids do a final exam. This is not your final exam. I hate to say it, I think there's a little bit of a waste of a time. If you're going to do a final exam, I'd rather have you do a really good last piece rather than something that you're redoing from before. So you're going to make it your best work. A lot of you really liked perspective, what we've been doing, so you can include perspective. You can make it really precise, as in setting up a horizon line and a vanishing point or 2 vanishing points, or you can kind of use what you've learned about perspective in your free draw type of drawing if you would like. And if you didn't like perspective, you can make it more like a fantasy type thing and just draw the way that you normally draw and not be so concerned with perspective. Remember the tricks we learned to create a well-designed work. So even if we have been in class all this time, the whole gist of things would always be, are you creating a well-designed work? And if I'm talking about, or you're trying to make a well-designed work, what are you trying to do? You're trying to have a theme, and the theme is going to be home. It can be your home, it can be animals' homes, it can be the homes of the future, it can be homes in outer space, it could be the home of your dreams, your nightmare, etc. So use your imagination in this one if you really like to use your imagination. And if you are a more concrete person, maybe it's going to be more of an architectural type of drawing rather than something that has a lot of unique things within it. You're going to have an area of interest. So remember, that's the most important part of your work. We usually have the area of interest off center, but sometimes it can be centered. The cool thing about the rules of composition or the guidelines of composition is that once you know them, you can manipulate them. So sometimes you do have a work of art that has the area of interest in the center. You're going to create depth. That is going to make the piece look more 3-dimensional. You can do that with your linear perspective like we have been working on. You could also use other things. You could use a path that begins wider, and as it moves up the page, it gets a little bit smaller. You can overlap to create a feeling of space, so you can have like a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. You could have a tree in front of a house. You could have a fence in front of a tree, which is in front of the house. You could have background mountains to create a feeling of space. If yours was in outer space, you could have planets that look closer and planets that look further away. You could use scale to create a feeling of space. So if you were to have a tree that is close to the viewer, it's going to be larger than the one that is way, way, way out into the backyard or further away from wherever the house is. We always talked about unity and contrast when we were in class. Unity are all those things that are the same. It makes it calm. Contrast are those parts that are different that make it interesting. So you can use value, which is shading, to get some type of unity or contrast. You could use your drawing skills to create textures, which would add a little bit of contrast so that it isn't quite so boring. And try to use small items, medium size, and large items in your drawing. That will also create a good relationship between your unity and contrast. And if you have color and you want to use it, go right ahead. Sometimes I find that if you're just using colored pencils and you're not great at it, you may want to just stick with a regular pencil, because sometimes that will make it seem a little bit less mature, but it's up to you whether you want to use color or not. The theme is the home, as noted. So it can be your house. It can follow the perspective rules. It can be warm and cozy. It can be scary. It can be totally up to you. And then lastly, after you do your artwork, then you're going to do a written response. I would like you to title your work. I would like you to answer these 3 questions. So they are: describe 3 ways your work is well designed. So these are, once again, what I'm talking about when it's well designed. Do you have a theme? Do you have an area of interest? Did you create depth? Do you have an interesting relationship between unity and contrast? So there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 of those, so you can pick any 3 of those and talk about them. Tell me the story of your drawing. So tell me a little bit about how you came to do that particular theme, what it's all about, and then what you are most proud of in your work. You are going to answer those questions, and you're going to send me at least 2 JPEGs, 2 photos of your work. It'd be nice if there was a close-up and then a piece of your entire work. And to be honest, everybody's been really great about doing really nice photos when they have their work passed in. All right, so these are some of the examples. I chose this one because the area of interest is centered, but it works really well in this one. It has other characteristics that we talk about a lot. The door leads us into the area of interest. The pathway leads us up to the area of interest. And even the moon kind of encourages us to look at this person a little bit longer. If the moon was positioned the other way, you might come up here, go to the person, and go right off the paper a little bit quicker. But that moon kind of holds you in this area of interest for a little bit longer, and then allows you to go back down, back around, and then back up on the composition. Okay, I like the perspective in this one. I like the movement in this one. I like the negative space in this one. There's so many cool things that are happening, and it has no color. It's just in black and white. So it cuts down on a little bit of time if you were to do something that's just black and white. On this one right here, at first look, it kind of, to me, looks like it's supposed to be a happy home. It's very architectural. It's kind of dry. After looking at it for even less than a minute or so, my first impressions that it's a happy home kind of disintegrates, and I kind of think it's a little bit lonesome. You know, there's no bird in the tree. The tree doesn't have that many leaves to it. There's nobody looking out the window. There's not a planter. There's no smoke coming out of the top of the chimney. So it's kind of dry, and that's fine, especially this really, to me, kind of, the person's indicating that it's about loneliness. This one right here, as I was going through looking at illustrations, this brought back a lot of nice memories for me, because I used to always read the stories of Mr. Frog to my kids. And I also like the coloration. So in this situation, it seems like they only have a pencil. They probably used ink, but for us it would be pencil, and then a green colored pencil. So just 2 colors, and yet it is you know, really reflective of the fact that probably frogs live in green areas. We know they don't live in a house, but obviously they live in green areas. So that's why I chose this one. I also like the fact that it was a little house kind of like we made, with the perspective going out to the side. You can see that there's a vanishing point that comes out here someplace. And then there's a vanishing point that goes over here someplace as well. They use the path type of thing, where the path is wider and it gets a little bit more narrow. You know, Mr. Frog lives in a nice happy house because he has a little chimney up there as well. This one I thought was very cool, totally different style, and it's very centered. I just thought it was really interesting because it was different than the other, and you just kind of wonder where this little piece is going to go right around here. I'm not familiar with the story, maybe you are, so you would know more about it. I thought this one was incredibly creative with the cats, and the trees are made of the cats. That was interesting. And I thought this one was a little bit too, even though this would look totally strange to us if it was 4 months ago, it probably doesn't look all that strange to us. It probably is more scary to us now. Maybe not a total spacesuit, but we do see people that are in some type of suits to protect them against a lovely little town or city in the background. And then I'm just going to show you one on my computer. My printer is giving me a hard time, so I didn't want to use up that much ink. So here's some with color on them and how dynamic they are with the grays and a little bit of reds in them as well. And this one will be on Google Classroom. All right, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna kind of decide what you want to do. So do some sketches of what you are thinking maybe you wanna do. So I thought maybe I would do the front of my house. So this is my basic sketch of how I was going to kind of lay it out before I actually started to draw it. And then this is my second step. I looked at my first step, and then because I'm really poor at drawing straight lines, I did use a ruler to kind of help me to get the straight lines in, and you can see that I, marked off where the centers of different things were. So I think my plan at this point is to make the house pretty accurate, and then be a little bit funkier and more creative with my trees and with some foliage and the outside things. I'll probably, I don't know, make them more lyrical, whereas this is not lyrical. This is very geometric and precise. Okay, so that's as far as I've gotten so far. I will transfer this onto another piece of paper, and then I will develop it a little bit more with more textures, and I'm gonna try to add color to mine as well. And I definitely put my little chimney in there because we all know that's a sign of a happy house as well. I don't know if I'll put smoke in it or not because it will look like springtime, so I don't think my furnace is going to be on at that particular time. All right, so this is the last project. There are 7 seniors in my 2 classes, so you guys, the 7 seniors, definitely want to get on it right away. There'll be the due date. It will be different for seniors as far as the due date goes, and the due date for the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. Okay, last project, make yourself proud, make me proud, do the best that you can with it, and I can't wait to see what you do.